My father passed away. After the funeral, my sister-in-law, Elise Thornton, announced that my brother Nathan would inherit our father's empire. I am Lorian Vale, 29 years old, and in that moment, at the Silver Maple restaurant in Richmond, Virginia, I stood frozen, feeling like I was lost in a strange dream. My mother Eleanor and I had arranged our father Victor Vale's funeral at Grace Covenant Church in Richmond. We prepared everything, from the wreaths to the eulogy, while Nathan and Elise arrived late, just back from Miami, walking in with indifferent expressions. After the funeral, everyone gathered at Silver Maple to commemorate. Employees of Brightfield Foods, the company my father built from nothing into a $300 million enterprise, sat around tables, whispering to each other. I stood in a corner, trying to talk to Samuel Grayson, or Sam, a veteran employee of the company. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, so you won't miss the latest stories. Then Elise stood up, wine glass in hand, and declared, "This is like a dream come true, a $300 million legacy, and our company." Her voice was triumphant, full of pride. Nathan, sitting beside her, nodded smugly, saying, "That's right, I'll lead Brightfield." I stood there, stunned as if the floor was collapsing beneath me. Brightfield Foods was my father's dream, where I had worked behind the scenes, learning from Sam and other employees. How could they be so confident? The employees began whispering, some glancing at me. A girl, Lydia Brooks, giggled, prompting Elise to snap, "Be quiet. This is the moment Nathan will inherit the company, and $300 million." I wanted to object, but my tongue felt tied. Elise continued, her voice domineering. Everyone raised a glass to Nathan. A few clapped, but most remained silent, their eyes shifting between me and Nathan. Sam, standing nearby, shook his head slightly, his gaze meaningful. I couldn't believe it. Elise spoke of Brightfield, as if it already belonged to them, as if I, who worked in the factory, checking production lines, meant nothing. I remembered my father, who started from a small workshop in Richmond, facing debt. Brightfield, with its jars of sauces and packaged foods, was his blood and sweat. He once said, "Lorian, the company is about people, not just money." I took those words to heart, choosing to work with Sam, learning to operate the production lines, instead of dreaming of being chairman like Nathan. Nathan, my brother, was different. He lived extravagantly, bragging to friends that he'd be Brightfield's chairman. He married Elise after a lavish wedding, built a mansion in Chesterfield, traveled the world, all on our father's money. Elise often mocked me, "Lorian, you don't act like a boss's son. Why not live more luxuriously?" I just smiled, avoiding argument. Working at Brightfield, learning from Sam, was what mattered to me. Now, at Silver Maple, hearing Elise's announcement, I felt a simmering anger. I wanted to shout that they didn't understand Brightfield, didn't understand our father. But I held back, remembering the letter my father left. Before he died, when a heart attack struck at his Chesterfield home, he pointed to a drawer and said, "Lorian, get the letter. The lawyer will handle everything." I took the letter. Unopened. His words felt like a promise that the truth would come to light. My mother held my hand under the table, her eyes gentle as if saying, "Just wait, Lorian." Sam nodded slightly, his gaze trusting. I clenched my fists, vowing not to let Elise and Nathan belittle my father's legacy. No matter how confident they were, I believed my father had his own plan. The truth would soon be clear, and I would protect what he built. A week after the funeral, lawyer Edward Pierce summoned the family and Brightfield Foods senior staff to the main office in Richmond, Virginia, to announce the will. I stepped into the large meeting room, where wooden walls were lined with photos of my father with employees over the years. Nathan and Elise were already there, sitting at the head of the table, smug smiles on their faces as if they'd already won. My mother Eleanor sat beside me, her eyes calm but worried. Sam Grayson, the veteran employee I always trusted, stood near the door, along with Lydia Brooks and other staff. Edward, in a stern gray suit, placed a stack of documents on the table and began, "Thank you all for coming. Today I will announce the will of Mr. Victor Vale, founder of Brightfield Foods." His voice was deep and clear, but I felt the room's tension like a taut string. Nathan crossed his arms, raising an eyebrow, while Elise toyed with her diamond ring, as if only waiting for good news. Edward opened the document and read, "I, Victor Vale, leave all of Brightfield Foods, along with all related assets worth $300 million, to my youngest son, Lorian Vale." The room seemed to hold its breath. I was stunned, unable to believe my ears. The entire company? To me? Edward continued. Lorien is chosen for his dedication, hard work, and because he has worked behind the scenes, understanding Brightfield's core values, people and unity. He turned to Nathan, voice even. Nathan Vale will receive a small sum, but most has already been paid for his lifestyle, including the mansion and travels. Nathan shot up, face red, shouting, "What? This is a fake will." The old man was senile. Elise stood abruptly, pointing at Edward. "No way! He was out of his mind when he wrote this. Lorien doesn't deserve it." Her voice was shrill, full of anger, as if I'd stolen what was theirs. I felt blood rush to my head. Not from their insults, but from how they dared call my father his senile. My father, who built Brightfield from a small workshop, always sharp and fair, couldn't be disrespected like that. I stood, voice trembling but resolute. My father was never out of his mind. He was always sharp, always fair. If he chose me, it's because he trusted me to protect Brightfield and everyone here. I looked straight at Nathan and Elise, unflinching. Nathan sneered. "You? A laborer? What do you know about running a company?" Elise cut in, voice mocking. "You only know how to stand in the factory, Lorien. This is a $300 million company, not a game." I wanted to retort, but my mother held my hand, her eyes saying, "Stay calm." Then Sam Grayson stepped forward, his voice low but strong. "Lorien isn't a laborer. He works with us, checks the lines, listens to employees. He understands Brightfield better than anyone." Lydia Brooks stood, adding, "He's always there. From opening the factory to closing." "Nathan? I've never seen him at the company." Other employees nodded, murmurs of agreement spreading. I felt a warmth, as if my father was here, smiling at this unity. Nathan and Elise paled. Elise shouted, "You're all wrong. Nathan's the one who deserves it." But her yells were drowned by the employees' support. Nathan pulled her arm, growling, "We'll sue. This will isn't valid." They stormed out, leaving the room in heavy silence. Edward calmly said, "The will is legally notarized. Any disputes will be settled in court." He looked at me, nodding slightly, as if confirming my father chose the right person. I sat down, still unable to believe I was Brightfield's heir. My mother squeezed my hand, whispering, "Your father is proud of you, Lorien." Sam patted my shoulder, his eyes full of trust. I touched the letter in my pocket, vowing to protect my father's legacy, not just for him, but for Sam, Lydia, and everyone who believed in me. After the will's announcement, I was still reeling. Lawyer Edward Pierce's words, that my father, Victor Vale, left all of Brightfield Foods to me, felt like both a burden and a pride. Nathan and Elise had stormed off, threatening to sue, but the voices of Sam Grayson and Lydia Brooks, along with the employees' support, echoed in me. I sat alone in my father's small office, clutching the letter he left. The room still smelled of old wood and ink, as if he were still here, watching me with trusting eyes. I began thinking of my father, his journey, and why I loved this company so much. When I was young, my father often told stories of Brightfield Foods' early days. He started with a small workshop in Richmond's outskirts, with just a few old machines and a big dream. Back then, he and my mother, Eleanor, worked day and night, from mixing sauces in large vats to delivering orders themselves. He once told me, voice full of pride, "Lorien, nothing's impossible if you believe in what you do." But the path wasn't easy. He borrowed heavily, facing bankruptcy when a large shipment was returned due to packaging error. I remember nights he sat at the dinner table, head bowed, my mother holding his hand, whispering, "We'll get through this, Victor." And they did. Brightfield grew from a small workshop into a $300 million company, with its sauces and packaged foods on supermarket shelves across America. I grew up in the company's shadow. Every summer, I followed my father to the factory, watching him check lines, chatting with employees like friends. He never acted like a boss. He called Sam Grayson, the veteran employee, the brain of the factory, for always improving machinery. I learned from him that a company isn't just about money, but people like Sam, Lydia, and dozens of others who turned his dream into reality. He taught me that hard work, listening, and respecting everyone was how to build something lasting. But Nathan, my brother, didn't think that way. Even as a kid, he was different. He loved showing off, always wanting attention. When our father took us to the company, I ran to Sam to see the machines, while Nathan sat in the office, drawing pictures of the day he'd be chairman. Growing up, Nathan studied business in college, but not to help the company. He wanted to brag to friends that he'd take over Brightfield. Our father tried to advise him, saying leadership wasn't about flashiness, but Nathan just laughed. "Dad, I know what I'm doing." After graduating, he didn't work at the company. Instead, he spent our father's money on lavish parties, expensive cars, and long trips. Then Nathan married Elise Thornton. Their wedding at a luxurious Richmond hotel was the talk of the town, with imported flowers and expensive wine, all paid for by our father. Elise, with her sleek blonde hair and sharp voice, quickly embraced Nathan's flashy lifestyle. They built a mansion in Chesterfield, where I only visited a few times because each time, Elise mocked me. "Lorian, you really don't act like a boss's son," she'd say, smirking at my simple shirt. "Why not buy some expensive suits? You have the money." Nathan would chime in, calling me a laborer, because I preferred factory work over their parties. I didn't care. To me, the company was where I belonged, not glamorous parties. After high school, I joined Brightfield Foods, not as the boss's son, but as a regular employee. Sam taught me to run the lines, check sauce quality, and fix machinery issues. I loved working with everyone, hearing about their families, their ideas for improving the company. Lydia, a young woman in packaging, once told me, "Lorian, you're different from Nathan. You actually care about us." Those words made me prouder than any praise from Nathan or Elise. But Nathan and Elise never understood. They saw Brightfield as a money machine, not our father's legacy. Whenever our father tried to get Nathan to the company, he'd make excuses, then ask for more money for cars or trips. Elise was worse. She'd tell my mother, "Brightfield will be Nathan's. You don't need to worry." My mother stayed silent, but I knew she was sad that Nathan never cared for our father like I did. Our father saw it too. In his final years, he'd call me to his office, point to the photos on the wall, and say, "Lorian, you understand this company. Don't let it fall to someone unworthy." My father's will, Victor Vale's will, named me Brightfield Foods heir, but Nathan and Elise's threats to sue loomed like a dark cloud. Reflecting on my father, on the days he built the company from nothing, made me more determined to protect his legacy. But as I began my role as chairman, I realized the road ahead wasn't easy. Nathan and Elise didn't stop at words. They made me face doubts from within the company itself. A few days after the will's announcement, I went to my mother's house in Chesterfield, Virginia, for dinner. Nathan and Elise were there, and the air was tense from the start. As my mother, Eleanor, brought out the roast, Elise looked at me with a mocking smile and said, "Lorian, do you really think you can run Brightfield? A laborer like you?" Her voice was icy, full of disdain, as if I didn't belong in the chairman's seat. Nathan, sipping wine, added, "Exactly. You have no qualifications. Dad choosing you was a mistake, and we'll prove it." He smirked, eyes challenging. I gripped my utensils, trying to stay calm. "I don't need qualifications from you two," I replied, voice shaking but firm. "Dad chose me because I understand Brightfield, understand the employees. What do you know besides spending his money?" Elise laughed, as if I'd told a joke. "Understand employees? Lorian, you're just a kid who fixes machines. This company needs a real leader, like Nathan." Nathan nodded, adding, "You'll ruin Brightfield within a year. Just wait, we'll take back what's ours." Their words cut like knives, but I didn't want to argue in front of my mother. She sat quietly, eyes sad, as if recalling the times our father tried and failed to bring Nathan to the company. I stood, excusing myself, not wanting them to see me waver. As I passed the living room, I heard Elise whisper to Nathan, "He'll fail. No one believes in a guy like Lorian." Those words haunted me on the drive home, making me wonder, could I really do what my father expected? At Brightfield Foods, the pressure grew. I started as chairman, but not everyone welcomed me. Some senior staff, especially George, the CFO who was close to Nathan, looked at me with doubt. In a meeting, George said bluntly, "Lorian, you're young, never managed. How can we trust you to lead a $300 million company?" His words weren't malicious, but they felt like a challenge. Some employees whispered, likely swayed by rumors Nathan and Elise spread, that I wasn't capable, that the will was a mistake. I tried to work, meeting with Sam Grayson and Lydia Brooks to review production lines. Sam supported me, saying I knew the company better than anyone, but Lydia, though friendly, admitted, "Some people are worried, Lorian. They don't know what you'll do differently from your father." Her words were a cold splash of reality. That night, I drove to my mother's house in Chesterfield, heart heavy. She was in the living room, reading under a warm yellow lamp. Seeing me, she set her book down, asking, "Lorian, are you okay? You look exhausted." I told her everything, Nathan and Elise's mockery, the employees' doubts, my fear of letting my father down. My mother listened, her eyes gentle but firm. When I finished, she held my hand and said, "Lorian, you don't need to prove anything to Nathan or Elise. Your father chose you because he saw in you what Nathan lacks, dedication and honesty. She recounted a story I'd nearly forgotten. When I was 15, Nathan caused family tension by refusing to visit our father, after being criticized for wasting money. Meanwhile, I spent the summer at Brightfield, working with Sam and learning the production lines. One day, my father called me to his office and said, "Lorian, you have the spirit of a true leader, not because you want power, but because you care about the people here." My mother smiled, adding, "Your father was proud of you, and now he's watching you from above. Don't doubt yourself, Lorian, you're doing well." My mother's comfort and memories of my father helped me regain resolve, but the pressure remained heavy. Nathan and Elise kept mocking me, calling me a laborer, unworthy of Brightfield Foods. Doubts from some employees like CFO George made me need to prove my father was right to choose me. I worked harder, meeting with Sam Grayson and Lydia Brooks to improve production lines. But deep down, I knew Nathan and Elise wouldn't give up easily. And I was right. One morning at Brightfield's office, I got a call from Elise. Her voice was unusually sweet. "Lorian, we should talk. Meet me at Brood Awakening in Carytown. I want to reconcile for the family." I froze. Reconcile? After all the insults? I remembered her mocking smile at my mother's house in Chesterfield, calling me unqualified. No, I didn't trust her. "I'm busy, Elise," I replied curtly, hanging up. But a gut feeling told me she was plotting something. I decided to keep an eye on her and Nathan, knowing they wouldn't stop at lawsuit threats. Days later, the truth emerged in a way I didn't expect. Lydia Brooks, the young packaging employee, entered my office, face tense. "Lorian, I need to talk to you," she said, voice trembling. Lydia revealed she'd accidentally found an email in the internal system, sent from an anonymous account to Taste Trend Foods, a major competitor of Brightfield. The email contained detailed contract pricing and our client list. The sender requested Taste Trend's financial support for long-term cooperation. Lydia dug deeper and found the email came from a computer Nathan used during a rare company visit months earlier. "I think Nathan's trying to sell Brightfield's information," Lydia said, eyes full of worry. I felt my blood boil. Nathan wasn't just challenging the will, he was betraying the company, betraying our father. I called Sam Grayson immediately and told him everything. Sam, with decades at Brightfield, wasn't surprised. "I've suspected Nathan for a while," he said. "He never cared about the company, only money. But we need to act fast, Lorian." I agreed. If Nathan and Elise succeeded, Brightfield would lose major contracts, and the reputation our father built over years would crumble. I decided to hold an emergency meeting with all employees in Brightfield's large meeting room. As everyone gathered, I stood before them, heart pounding. This was my first speech as chairman, and I knew I had to convince them to stand with me. "Everyone," I began, voice slightly shaky, "I have something important to share. Nathan, my brother, has contacted Taste Trend Foods, sending Brightfield's internal information for money. He wants to sabotage the company our father built." The room buzzed with whispers. George, the CFO, frowned, while others looked shocked. I detailed the email Lydia found, emphasizing that Nathan's actions weren't just a betrayal of our father, but a threat to everyone's jobs here. "Brightfield isn't just a company," I said, scanning the room. "It's our father's dream, where we work together, build together. I need your help to protect it." Sam stood, his voice resounding. "Lorian's right. I've been here since the company was a small workshop. Victor trusted Lorian, and so do I. He works with us, not above us, like Nathan." Lydia added, "Nathan never cared about us. Lorian's different. He's always here, listening to us." Another employee, a guy from transportation, stood. "I'm with Lorian. We can't let Nathan ruin Brightfield." Applause erupted, growing louder, filling me with strength. George, who doubted me, finally nodded. "Lorian, if what you say is true, I'm with you," he said. "But we need solid proof to deal with Nathan." I agreed, thanking Lydia for her vigilance, and promising to work with the tech team to gather more evidence from the email. The meeting ended with a sense of unity I'd never felt before. Employees, from Sam to newcomers like Lydia, stood with me, not because I was chairman, but because they believed in what our father built. Leaving the meeting, I felt relieved, but knew the battle wasn't over. Nathan and Elise were still hiring lawyers, and their contact with Taste Trend showed they'd do anything to seize Brightfield. But I was no longer as afraid. After uncovering Nathan and Elise's scheme, I felt Brightfield Foods wasn't just my father's company, but my home, Sam's, Lydia's, and every employee who stood to defend it. The email Lydia found, proving Nathan sent internal information to Taste Trend Foods, was verified by the company's tech team. We sent the evidence to lawyer Edward Pierce, and I knew the fight with Nathan and Elise was nearing its end. They'd hired lawyers to challenge our father's will, and a trial was set at the local courthouse in Richmond, Virginia. I entered the courtroom with determination, but couldn't help feeling anxious. This was my first time facing my brother in a legal battle, and I had to prove our father was right to choose me. The courtroom was small but solemn, with wooden benches and dim light from windows. My mother, Eleanor, sat in the front row, her eyes full of trust. Sam Grayson and Lydia Brooks were there, representing Brightfield's employees. Nathan and Elise sat across, next to their lawyer, a middle-aged man with a cold demeanor. Elise glared at me with contempt, while Nathan crossed his arms, his smug smile still intact. The judge, a stern woman, asked Edward Pierce to present the will. Edward stood, voice clear. Mr. Victor Vale's will is legally notarized, signed by 2 witnesses. He left Brightfield Foods worth $300 million to his youngest son, Lorian Vale, for his dedication and understanding of the company. He presented a handwritten letter from my father, stating, "Lorian is the only one I trust to protect Brightfield and its people." Edward concluded with a short video, recorded before my father's death. In it, my father, weak from illness, looked at the camera and said, "Lorian understands Brightfield's value. You'll preserve my dream, not for money, but for the people." Nathan's lawyer stood, arguing the will was invalid, because my father was incompetent when he wrote it. He called Nathan the rightful heir, as the eldest son. Elise called as a witness, declared, "Lorian's just a laborer. He knows nothing about management. Nathan's the one who deserves it." Nathan testified, voice triumphant. "Dad was under pressure when he wrote the will. If he were lucid, he'd have chosen me, the one trained to lead." Anger flared in me. They weren't just insulting me, they were slandering our father, who was always sharp and fair. It was my turn to testify. I stood, looking at the judge, and said, "My father was never incompetent. He built Brightfield from a small Richmond workshop, overcoming debt and hardship. He taught me the company is about people, not just money. I worked in the factory, with employees, learning from them, because that's how he wanted me to understand Brightfield." I spoke of working with Sam, checking sauce production lines, and how Lydia helped uncover Nathan's scheme. "Nathan never cared about the company," I said firmly. "He only spent Dad's money, and now he's sent internal information to Taste Trend Foods to sabotage us." Sam was called as a witness. He stood before the court, voice low but strong. "I've worked for Victor since Brightfield had 5 people. Lorian's always been there, working with us, listening. Nathan? I've never seen him in the factory." Lydia testified, recounting the email she found. "Nathan wanted to sell Brightfield's information. Lorian's the one protecting the company, not him." Other employees, including the transportation guy, spoke up saying they trusted me because I cared about them, unlike Nathan. The judge listened, reviewing evidence, including the email Lydia found. After an hour of deliberation, she declared, "Mr. Victor Vale's will is legal. Lorian Vale is confirmed as Brightfield Foods chairman. Nathan Vale's claims are dismissed." The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Elise screamed, "No way, this is unfair." But Nathan pulled her arm, face pale, and they stormed out, shunned by everyone. I looked at my mother, seeing her smile, eyes glistening. Sam and Lydia clapped, sparking applause across the courtroom. I returned to Brightfield and held a meeting in the large conference room. Employees gathered, their eyes hopeful. "Thank you all," I said, voice choking. "Without Sam, Lydia, and all of you, I couldn't have protected Brightfield. This company is my father's dream, and I promise to lead it in his spirit, for people, not money." I announced a bonus program for employees, a way to thank their loyalty. Applause erupted, and I felt proud, not for defeating Nathan, but for everyone's unity. The courtroom victory was a turning point for me. When the judge confirmed my father Victor Vale's will as legal, I felt I'd protected his dream and the employees' trust. Nathan and Elise left the courtroom in disgrace, shunned by all, but I knew the story wasn't over. They'd betrayed the company, sending internal information to Taste Trend Foods, and I wondered what consequences awaited them. Meanwhile, I focused on Brightfield, working with Sam Grayson, Lydia Brooks, and employees to keep the company strong. But Nathan and Elise's fate, like a harsh lesson, soon came into view. Not long after the trial, I heard Nathan was fired from Brightfield Foods. He'd held a nominal role, arranged by our father in hopes he'd change, but Nathan never actually worked. After the court dismissed his claims, the board, with my support, cut all ties with him. Without Brightfield's money, his lavish lifestyle collapsed. The Chesterfield mansion was foreclosed by the bank, as he couldn't pay debts. The expensive cars, watch collection, and trips, all gone. Elise, who'd arrogantly declared Nathan would be chairman, couldn't handle the poverty. She left him, moving to Norfolk, Virginia, cramped in a friend's apartment, and working part-time at a supermarket. Nathan, now alone, worked at a convenience store in Henrico, Virginia. I heard he was disrespected by younger co-workers for lacking skills, often messing up and getting scolded. The man who boasted he'd take over Brightfield now bowed his head, stocking shelves and ringing up customers. His old friends who flattered him at parties turned away when he had no money. I wasn't surprised. Nathan and Elise lived on glamour, building nothing substantial. Now they paid the price for their arrogance and selfishness. One afternoon, as I reviewed production reports at Brightfield's Richmond office, Nathan appeared. He stood at the door, shirt wrinkled, eyes weary. "Lorian," he said, voice hoarse, "I need to talk." I looked at him, recalling the times he called me a laborer, his lawsuit threats, and the email to Taste Trend. But I invited him to sit, wanting to hear him out. Nathan bowed his head, saying, I have nothing left. Elise left me. The house is gone. Money too. You're my brother, Lorian. Help me. Give me some money, or a job at Brightfield. I stayed silent, torn between anger and pity. But I remembered our father, how Nathan and Elise insulted him, calling him senile and trying to sabotage the company. "Nathan," I said firmly, "you had your chance. Dad gave you everything. Money, a role at Brightfield. But you chose to spend and betray. You sent company information to Taste Trend, threatening everyone's jobs here. I can't help you." Nathan looked up, eyes red, but I continued. "You need to take responsibility. I don't want Mom to be sad, but I can't let you ruin more." Nathan said nothing, just stood and left, his figure fading down the hallway. I called my mother, Eleanor, and told her about the encounter. She sighed, voice sad. "I feel for Nathan. But you did the right thing, Lorian. Your father wanted you to protect Brightfield." Her words reinforced my decision. I didn't refuse Nathan out of hatred, but because I had to keep my promise to our father, to Sam, Lydia, and the employees. After Nathan and Elise's downfall, I poured my heart into Brightfield Foods. The courtroom victory and employees' support gave me confidence to lead the company, not just for my father, but for people like Sam Grayson, Lydia Brooks, and dozens of employees who trusted me. Sitting in my father's office in Richmond, Virginia, I felt immense responsibility, but also pride in carrying on his dream. I worked closely with Sam and Lydia, improving sauce and packaged food production lines. We signed new contracts with major East Coast distributors, significantly boosting revenue. I used some profits to upgrade the factory, buy modern machinery, and improve employee benefits, from better health insurance to annual bonuses. One day, Lydia walked into my office, smiling. "Lorian, the factory folks say they've never seen the company this united." Her words reminded me of my father, who always said Brightfield was about people, not just money. My mother, Eleanor, became my greatest emotional support. One evening at her Chesterfield home, we sat at the dinner table, reminiscing about my father. She recalled how he dreamed of a sauce line named after the family. I decided to fulfill that dream, naming a new product Victor's Pride to honor him. When the first jar launched, my mother held my hand, eyes sparkling. "Your father's smiling from above, Lorian." I nodded, feeling he was still here, guiding me every step. Brightfield Foods is now more than a company. It's a symbol of hard work and unity. I regularly meet employees, listening to their ideas, from Sam's decades of experience to newcomers like Lydia. I don't want to be a distant boss, but a leader like my father, approachable and dedicated. Every time I see Victor's Pride sauce on supermarket shelves, I feel proud, not for fame, but for keeping my promise to my father. The story of Lorian Vale and Brightfield Foods reflects core values still highly relevant to life in the United States today, especially in the context of family business culture, personal competition, and the emphasis on work ethic. Lorian, a hard-working, humble young man, overcame his brother Nathan and sister-in-law Elise's arrogance and betrayal to protect his father's legacy in Richmond, Virginia. His journey from being mocked as a laborer to becoming chairman of a $300 million company is a testament to the power of dedication and unity. In contrast, Nathan and Elise's downfall from a Chesterfield mansion to menial jobs in Henrico and Norfolk shows the consequences of selfishness and irresponsibility. Details like our father Victor's letter, the support of employees like Sam and Lydia, or the Victor's Pride sauce line underscore that success comes not from fame or money, but from honesty and care for the community. A real-life lesson, in modern American society, where pressure for personal success and fierce competition often dominate, Lorian's story teaches that hard work and loyalty to core values lead to lasting success. Instead of chasing short-term glory like Nathan, invest in meaningful relationships and work, as Lorian did by listening to employees and improving benefits at Brightfield. His refusal to help Nathan due to responsibility to the company reminds us to prioritize ethics over personal gain. In work or family, build trust like Lorian did with Sam and Lydia, and always remember, as his father taught, the company is about people. This lesson is especially relevant to American culture, where unity and work ethic are the foundation for lasting prosperity. Subscribe to the channel to follow Lorian's journey protecting his dream and Brightfield Foods. Thank you for joining. See you in the next video.